All right, hour 3 of Inside the Birds live from Radio Row here. Geoff Mosher with Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. Adam Caplan will be joining us again at some point in this hour and probably lugging along somebody who we'd love to speak to like you did. You never know who's going to show up here as we just pull the guests in left and right. This hour is brought to you by Rivers Casino Philadelphia, home of Bet Rivers Sportsbook. So far, we've heard from former Eagles tight end Clay Harbor. We've heard from former Eagles quarterback and Super Bowl champion quarterback Jim McMahon, which was an incredible interview. Ross Tucker, everybody knows the great Ross Tucker. And who else have we? Oh, and
Frank Caliendo.
By surprise, and this is the beauty of being on Radio Row with you guys, Adam just all of a sudden says, hey, we got Frank Caliendo, and we sit down and have a fantastic interview with Frank Caliendo. If you're watching now, but you missed anything that we've done, it's all on our YouTube channel. It's all going to be podcasted. So every interview we do down here, you will have access to. And of course, we'll do some extra special interviews as well, which we already have one in the bank for our friends who join us on Patreon. If you want to be a part of our Patreon community, that's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds to subscribe. We had a couple of questions, Andrew, that I want to get to from the people watching as we sit here and wait for Adam and our next guest. Had a couple of questions that I thought were pretty fascinating. One of the questions was, who has the best chance as a defensive player to win Super Bowl MVP in this game? I think that there are some obvious candidates, but I will start with you. If there's going to be a defensive player winning MVP, who do you think it would be?
From Philadelphia's perspective, Jeff, I would say Hassan Reddick. And looking at the Chiefs' offensive line, it's a really stout offensive line, except for the right tackle, Andrew Wiley, which is where I think could be the game within the game. Hassan Reddick has wreaked havoc through the playoffs, 3.5 sacks. And I think that he's got another favorable matchup this week against Wiley. Not only that, he finishes the deal when he gets to the quarterback. He forces fumbles, he gets the ball out, and affects the game in a multitude of ways. So I would say Hassan Reddick.
So I think that makes sense from an answer of what defensive player can impact the game mostly, either Hassan Reddick, or if we were to go to the Chiefs, right, we might say Chris Jones. We might say somebody else who's a really good player in their front seven, Frank Clark. The only thing is, Andrew, the question is which defensive player has the best chance to win MVP. And it's in my recollection of Super Bowl history that in order for it's not usually, there are plenty of guys in the Super Bowl. I think Von Miller had a great Super Bowl for the Broncos a couple of years ago.
Malcolm Smith, the linebacker.
Malcolm Smith, right. But it wasn't because of a lot of sacks,
right?
Forced fumbles. You usually have to score a touchdown. You got to take one back. You have to make maybe the biggest play in the game, like a Malcolm Butler with that interception. I feel like it favors the back end.
Okay.
Going back to, was it 94 when the Cowboys played the Steelers in the Super Bowl? And who was the defensive back who won MVP? And then he signed, I think, free agent with the Raiders.
Signing a free agent deal. Exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, the name eludes me right now. But either way, that's usually what it takes for a defensive player to win MVP. So if that were to happen, I would say the best chance for the Eagles to get for a defensive player on the Eagles or Chiefs to get MVP would be CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Okay.
Because I could see him having a couple of picks and taking one back to the house, right? Or from the Chiefs standpoint, I would say Nick Bolton.
Wow.
Because
Explain.
If the Chiefs are going to force turnovers and someone's going to score a touchdown, I don't think it's going to be from interceptions. And I think it's going to be in the interior of the defense where Bolton's going to be really responsible for playing that RPO, right? For having his eyes on the quarterback, having his eyes on the interior receivers. He's going to play. He's a sideline to sideline playmaker. He's a good linebacker.
180 tackles on the year.
He's a really good linebacker. Yeah. Now, again, for him to win DMVP, he's probably going to have to pick one off, maybe pick two, or recover or force a fumble, recover it, and take it back. But I don't, Jalen Hurts does not put a lot of balls in harm's way.
No, he hasn't.
So I'm not going to sit here and say that like Justin Reed or L'Jarius Sneed to me stick out as obvious candidates. If the Chiefs are going to play a defensive-minded game and win this game because of defense, I think it's going to be the pressure caused by Frank Clark or Chris Jones that results in a loose ball or a ball in the air that a Nick Bolton recovers or catches, and or maybe he has a really big third or fourth down kind of sack in that regard.
I could say Willie Gay. I could counter with Willie Gay, looking at who's going to spy Jalen Hurts. If they do, Willie Gay is the more athletic of the two, very good sideline to sideline speed. And he's he's a little bit lighter, but I think he has a lot of range. So I think he could be one that if he does recover a fumble, we'll take it back to the house.
Now, you were with the Chiefs this morning.
Yeah.
Did you get the kind of sense that he's all right and ready to good? He's going to be good to go. He's dealing with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, from my vantage point, it seemed like he's going to be all right. Obviously, we still have a few days to go. I'm going to try and talk to him tomorrow and see where he's at. But I think he could be one of those defensive X factors for them.
All right, Willie Gay. Now, how would you compare Bolton and Gay? Would you say Willie Gay is more of the explosive athlete, whereas Bolton is more of the technician?
Yeah, he's more the technician, thumper, a fundamentally sound type of player. He does a lot of things well, too. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think if you're looking at it from a Chiefs defensive standpoint, who would be most inclined to spy Jalen Hurts? I think it would be Willie Gay.
Yeah. I think we could look at the Eagles linebackers and say TJ Edwards is the technician. TJ Edwards does everything right. He's the guy who's makes the most tackles. He's their Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is their TJ Edwards. And Kaiser White is their more explosive spy, run with the quarterback type of player.
Exactly. And that's kind of, it's almost sort of like they mirror each other in that regard. The two sets of linebackers.
Well, those of us who, those of our listeners or viewers who caught this morning's Inside the Bird podcast, and even last week when we talked about how the Chiefs built, I mean, it's not that odd, or it's not coincidental that the Chiefs and the Eagles have similar style teams and how they're built, because they're both built from the DNA that Andy Reid brought to both franchises.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality is that these two teams are very strong in the trenches because that's the Andy Reid influence. And of course, the quarterback is that's more Patrick Mahomes there. And here you have to give Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman a lot of credit for, taking Jalen Hurts in the second round, but then also this coaching staff for developing Jalen Hurts in the way that they have. But maybe even there's something to be said with their philosophy, the Eagles' philosophy, which is unlike any other teams we've seen, of making sure you have the best backup, most high-end backup.
Absolutely.
To the point where you use a second-round pick. That definitely comes from what they went through in the Andy Reid era, because Andy usually had some good backups. And then you remember 2005, the year after the Super Bowl, they wound up with Mike McMahon as their backup, and that wound up being a disastrous year.
But in theory, you're right. You're right. In theory, they thought that they had themselves all their bases covered by bringing in somebody like that. But even looking back in the early 2000s, Lito and Sheldon, Michael Lewis was, I think, well, he was no, they had Blaine Bishop. So yeah, they were high-end backups at the time.
Yeah, but specifically at the quarterback position.
Oh, a quarterback.
I think they learned after the Mike McMahon year.
Oh, yeah.
Because the following year they went and got Jeff Garcia.
Right.
And they saw how valuable Jeff Garcia was when he took them when Donovan got hurt to the postseason.
AJ Feely.
And yeah, of course, AJ Feely. So they saw the value of the backup. And of course, it goes without saying, Nick Foles, right, who was drafted by Andy Reid. So it goes without saying that this franchise learned, more so than other franchises even, that I guess it's never too early to quote unquote take a backup quarterback. As much as me and Adam and everybody thought at the time that seemed like sort of a reach, and not just the player but the concept of taking a quarterback in the second round. It just didn't seem, when you had so many other issues, right? But they learned that value, that concept. They're strong in their convictions, and it paid off. I can't knock that. It certainly paid off for them.
Yeah, absolutely. The proof is in the pudding, and the blueprint was laid by Andy Reid. So I do see a lot of similarities in how they choose to allocate resources to their backups.
And it makes me think when they do extend Jalen Hurts this offseason, and they give him a big time contract, and we know Gardner Minshew is a free agent, and if Gardner Minshew winds up being elsewhere, do the Eagles feel like they will need to use another high pick on a backup quarterback?
That's fair. And I was asked this question last week, and initially I thought Minshew played himself out of the payday that he may have envisioned, the starting role that he may have envisioned. So you sort of wonder if he might factor back into the Eagles' plans. Now, do the Eagles want to go down that road again? I don't know. I mean, when you sign a backup quarterback like that, Jeff, you hope you don't have to use him, but if you do, you hope that if he can get you one win, the investment is worth it. And he couldn't, and he was not able to do that.
No, that's really, compared to last year when he stepped in and did get you the win against the Jets.
Yeah.
And I think we felt he played fairly well against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They lost the game, but they did score 33 points in that game, right?
Yeah.
Something high. But obviously the Saints game wasn't his best. However, I'm going to say this, it seemed like after that game, the opinion of Gardner Minshew changed drastically. And I really don't like to judge a player on his worst moment. And that was certainly his worst moment. And then it sort of got folded in. Well, he's 0 for 2. Okay, I know he threw some interceptions against the Cowboys. He is a backup quarterback. I mean, Nick Foles had the highs and lows as well. I still think he's a guy who's a pretty good backup quarterback. But where I would agree with you is I think that when you look around the league, the teams that need quarterbacks are going to either draft a quarterback, they're going to go after Derek Carr, they're going to go after Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that Gardner Minshew is going to find a whole lot of teams knocking down his door to come in and compete for a starting job.
Which is why I think that he may all of a sudden be one of those guys that the Eagles may retain for a favorable price, because the market is going to dictate he's going to be sort of a non-entity.
But think about this, as favorable as the price is, and by the way, we are expecting to have LeGarrette Blount with us around 1:30. So about 1:30.
Oh, cool.
That'll be 3:30 your time. Yeah, 1:30 here, Mountain Time in Arizona. So looking forward to that. Stick with us. The price that you have Gardner Minshew now at, 4-year deal of a 4-year, right? Compared to even a bargain price of a backup quarterback, because now he's a free agent.
Right.
Now he's going to look at, I'm a pretty good backup quarterback, even if he can't get the starting job. What's the going rate for a good backup quarterback? Well, for Chase Daniel, it's like, what, $10 to $12 million a year, right? So Gardner Minshew may not get what he's looking for, but he's probably going to get a high-end backup quarterback deal. And even if it's $6 to $7 million, that's a lot of money. All of a sudden that the Eagles would have to allocate. Greg Cosell walking by. Don't you agree that makes it almost? I mean, we'll have to see what the market dictates.
Sure, but I think it is interesting. It's a lot more interesting than maybe it was 2 months ago.
Sure, absolutely. All right, let's get to our second question. So, which offense is going to be harder to stop in the Super Bowl, and does it have more to do with matchups or talent?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, that is a good question. So, let me start with this. I think. Well, when you're evaluating a matchup, aren't you evaluating the talent of it? Like when I see the Eagles wide receivers against Chiefs corners, I say that's a matchup that I like for the Eagles because they're more talented than the Chiefs are. So I'm not trying to be evasive or elusive with the question. And I think I understand the nature of the question.
Yeah, I get that.
I think these teams are very evenly matched. That's the nature of the question. So who puts the team over the edge? And I think offensively, I would still give the Chiefs a little bit more of a nod because the Eagles play an execution style defense. They play a lot of zone on first and second down, and they play a lot of man match on third down and passing downs, which means man on the outside, zone in the middle. And when you play that style of defense, you're basically asked to, as we call it, the match, carry, deliver. You stick with a guy, then you pass him off to the next guy. You play your keys. You have to be in the right area, in the right zone all the time. And what the Chiefs do, maybe better than any team you've ever seen do it, specifically Travis Kelce, right, and Patrick Mahomes, is they run freelance routes. They run a route that looks like an ordinary dig or cross or whatever, post, right? And then Travis will stop in the middle of it, do a couple of pirouettes, and as was it Clay Harbor who was saying, like, he finds the area where people aren't.
And find the soft spot.
So in the inside, the way the Eagles play defense, it's hard to find a soft spot in the zone because they're all matching, carrying, and delivering. But when a guy starts freelancing and the quarterback already knows it's happening before it happens,
how do you plan for that?
Yeah, it's, you know how Jonathan Gannon talks about unscouted looks
all the time,
right? Yeah, you expect those in the first 10, 15 plays. Well, these are almost unscouted routes.
Yeah, and there's no possible way to plan for that. And I think that's what makes the Kansas City offense one unpredictable, but as lethal as it is, because you can't train or prepare yourself for that. So I think for that, I actually do agree that I think that's I think you have to give them the nod, and I think they move the needle a little bit because of what they're able to do. But I think when you look at it from a talent perspective, Jeff, and you and I have talked about this, I think the Eagles, you have to give them the nod in that regard because you look at their receivers. I think you take those matchups any day of the week against that secondary.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. As long as you're blocked up and well protected, and I do think the Eagles will come out for some shot plays. I think they'll try to take advantage of that matchup. And there's another thing that I think so there's one thing that I think favors the Chiefs offensively that I just mentioned with their freelancing. There's something that I've just talking to people down here. mostly former players and coaches who were analyzing the game told me that the Eagles should do that would greatly advantage them. I'll get to that in a second. First, I want to remind everybody, Rivers Casino Philadelphia is Philly's casino with everything that you like to play. Check out Bet Rivers Sportsbook, Philly's first and best sportsbook and the only place to watch the Birds. Plus, watch and wager on professional college sports all year round. Enjoy luxury lounge seating, massive HD video wall, great game day food, and more. Keep the action going with electronic poker games at the Sportsbook Bar. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And again, Inside the Birds pregame live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Adam, myself, and our guests, our panelists will be doing Inside the Birds pregame live at Rivers Casino. So this might sound obvious, but there are people that I speak to about this game who say the Chiefs front seven is very good, but it's not deep. And if the Eagles try to go a little no huddle, a little 12 personnel and start running the ball inside zone, Ross Tucker was talking to us earlier, and people saw the interview, that you don't even have to be cute with it. Look what they did against the 49ers.
Yep.
Inside zone, double teams, pound away. You will eat away at that Chiefs front seven, get them running. They're not going to be able to sub guys in who are fresh and healthy, who are better than they have in their front seven. And that's the wear down tactic. So there are some people that feel like the Eagles should take their fair share of shot plays, but when all is said and done, go where the money goes, man. The bread and butter, that offensive line, that running game, that quarterback's ability to run, the RPOs and the zone reads.
Control the clock, wear them down. I think that's an underrated storyline, is that they aren't deep. They're really strong. Their front seven is very formidable, but they aren't deep there, Jeff. So it all depends on how the Eagles come out. We've seen them commit to the run like they did against Green Bay. We've also seen them shy away from it at the first sense of resistance. So what is going to be their approach to this game? Does the magnitude of the game, and I want to ask you that, I'm interested to hear your opinion, does the magnitude of the game alter Nick Sirianni? Well, do you think he's a coach that could be a prisoner of the moment? And also the second part of that is, how do you think Jalen Hurts is going to rise to the occasion when the lights are brightest, despite having played on the biggest stages in college football?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say this. I think college football is, when you play it at the level that Jalen Hurts plays at, Power 5 conference, BCS championship game, huge stadiums. I'm not sure that the media attention and exposure is all that much different than you're getting at the highest levels of the NFL. Certainly, we know that the stadiums hold hundreds of thousands of people. We know that college football it might be more popular from a viewership standpoint. I mean, all the eyes of the world are on, at least in America, are on the championship games until they end at 3 seconds before the ball is dropping on New Year's Eve. Usually, the eyes of the world are on the BCS championship games and everything like that. So, with Jalen having played in all that, and doing it at both Alabama and then playing at a high level Oklahoma, and we've seen him throughout his Eagles career, he doesn't seem like someone who's going to take the field on Sunday, look around and be like, oh my God, right? I mean, you don't get that.
I certainly don't. No, he's
It happens to others, by the way.
It does, and that's why I asked, because we've seen that with McNabb. You've covered extensively, but you've with Jalen, he hasn't played in a game of this magnitude, obviously, at this level. So it does, it begs the question: how is he going to be? Is he going to be the composed guy? It's one thing to say and do all the right things, Jeff,
right,
and do it throughout the regular season, but on the biggest stage in pro sports, how are you going to be able to deliver when the team needs you? So
right.
That's something that could be one of those factors that we look at. But the Nick Sirianni effect. Mm-hmm. Do you think he's going to coach within himself and his convictions, or do you think he's going to be someone that becomes a prisoner of the moment and coach a little scared or something to that effect?
So I would say, without having done like an exact scientific study on it or a data analysis study on it, just from, my feel from watching the last, let's go to the last like 5, 6, 7 Super Bowls. Okay. I feel like the first time coaches are fearless for what you expect. I think most people look at this game and say, oh boy, Nick Sirianni's in trouble. He is a first-time Super Bowl head coach, just 2 years in the game, going up against one of the best that's ever done it. The guy's already won the Super Bowl and is in his, third straight Super Bowl? Or no, third out of 4.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that that's the natural perception of the game. But if you kind of go look back, right? Obviously, there's 2017. which is, I don't want to say that the exception is the rule, but Doug Peterson is infamous in his book for saying that he's talking to Bill Belichick right before the game. And Belichick's trying to say, like, I was looking for tape on you guys being behind and I couldn't find any, right? And Doug coming away with a, that's Bill Belichick and I'm going to go kick his ass. That's
Yeah.
what Doug said he thought to himself, right? And then Doug pulls the Philly special out before halftime. Like, sure, let's run the Philly special. I mean, Doug coached that game, and on his backup quarterback, he threw the ball all around, right?
Yeah.
You go back to the NFC Championship, he had the flea flicker to Torrey. Doug coached fearlessness with fearlessness. I think last year, the Bengals were in the Super Bowl. They lost to the Rams, but I think I brought up earlier on our live stream, they ran a play where Joe Mixon threw a touchdown to T. Higgins. So I don't think Zach Taylor coached that game with fear.
No.
I just think that if you go look at some of the games and some of the trick plays and some of the gadgets that you see, they're often from guys who are there for the first. I mean, Pete Carroll was there for the first time with the Seahawks. I mean, it was a cakewalk for him that game, right? I mean, it was a Cam Chancellor who set the tone from the start with the hit over the middle, right on Demaryius Thomas.
Didn't the fumble go over Peyton Manning's head?
Right. And think how veteran was that John Fox coaching the team then?
He was. Absolutely.
That's the veteran coaching staff. They're unraveling, and meanwhile, Pete Carroll and his merry band of Legion of Boom hitting everybody. They were loose. So I think when I was a kid, you always expected in the 80s, 90s, you did see the tightness sometimes out of the first timers. But now I feel like the first time coaches, they're excited and they almost know, Andrew, that they're there for a reason. And they're there because everything that they thought of that they did in the season, most of it worked. And we saw Nick Sirianni with both sort of bye weeks, the regular season bye week and the one before the playoffs, come out and try a few different things. They went from doing conventional quarterback sneaks to all of a sudden we're lining up and then we're hurrying it up and we're pitching it out to Gainwell. They've kept it fresh for all year long. They don't run the same plays out of the same formations. They do different receivers from the same sets they'll go to. So I think Nick Sirianni he strikes me just like Jalen is not really worried about the moment.
Unflappable.
Yeah, unflappable. But it's also more so when you know that you got the best team, I think you worry as much. I mean, you might lose, right? The possibility is always there, but I don't think you stay up late at night thinking of, oh my God, what do I have to do to narrow the bridge? What kind of crazy things do I have to draw up in the sand here at 3 a.m, the night before the game, because I can't sleep.
And I think if you think that way, you've already lost because you have doubt. You're allowing doubt to creep in.
Absolutely. So I'm trying to think of an example recently where I thought maybe a coach was conservative in the game when he was a young coach.
Even Sean Payton, the first time coach, you talk about the onside kick the last second.
Right, Sean Payton, great example.
That just goes to your point. But I'm having trouble thinking of a coach that was in his first year or a first time Super Bowl head coach that was conservative.
Yeah, you really just don't see it that much. I think that coaches are just so. I mean, especially coaches in Philadelphia.
What about Tony Dungy? Tony Dungy, maybe.
Maybe. And that goes to like the defensive minded coach. Like I don't know if he told his offense was Arians his offensive coordinator at the time to go. I forget who was his offensive coordinator.
That's
to go draw up something like crazy like that. But I don't see it. I think youth is good. I think that fresh blood. I think that enthusiasm. I think he's gonna love it. I honestly think he's gonna look around Nick Sirianni and be like, I was meant for this, And maybe maybe I'm getting caught up in it. Maybe I'm getting too much credit, or giving him too much credit. I mean, but I'm just relying on how I've seen people coach in this game for the last few years, unafraid. Remember when the Bengals threw the Joe Mixon to T. Higgins touchdown, they were down 13-3.
Yeah,
you're down 10 points, double digits before halftime of a Super Bowl, right? That's normally a time where people are like, oh, no, I can't mess around now, right? I can't start trying reach into my bag of tricks because if this backfires, oh my God, they're gonna kill me after the game. But he didn't worry about that.
Right.
He pulled out his bag of tricks. He won. He got the play, and it was they lost the game, but that was a pivotal moment at that time for them.
And how many times we've heard Jalen Hurts say, "I am the storm. I set the temperature." These things. Well, now's your time to deliver on that. I mean, all season he has. But now when the stakes are highest, let's see. And I think another facet that we can't overlook is that they do have a good blend of veterans that have reached the top of the mountain. You also have that youthful exuberance in which you alluded to. And you look at CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's one of those guys that's the vocal leader, that's secondary. You got guys like Darius Slay. You got you have Devontae Smith and the AJ Browns that are. It's a good mix of players that have inexperience, but also those veterans that have won the title.
Who was it? Was it I don't remember now because we've talked to so many people, whether it was Ross Tucker or somebody else, but maybe it was Clay. Clay felt that Devontae Smith was going to be.
That was Clay, yeah.
Yeah, Clay Harbor thinks Devontae Smith will be an X factor in this game. I swear, as the season has gone on, I've started to think that Devontae Smith might be the Eagle. And I'm not trying to diss or dismiss AJ Brown in any way. But there's no doubt about it that when you need that catch, that reliable set of hands, that Devontae Smith has now emerged as that guy, even though he didn't really catch the pass against the 49ers, just to put himself in the position to be able to get that ball at that time, which was sort of a leading him, and he's twisting his body just to even make it seem like he caught the pass was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and this could be one of those takes that's a little bit controversial, but I think Devontae's a better receiver.
He drops more. I mean, AJ Brown drops too many passes.
Yeah, but I also think that Devontae he's a 3-level player.
Yeah.
We've seen him play big like he did against Pat Surtain to fight for the ball in the end zone. His route running is among the best of the NFL, and his body control is fantastic. And I mentioned this to somebody who was sitting next to me at the game. I think it was Kirk Morrison. I said the only Eagles receiver that makes that catch, that 29-yarder on 4th and 3, was Devontae Smith.
That's right. You're right about that.
He's the only Eagles receiver that makes that catch.
Yeah, he is really Mr. Reliable for the team. What an amazing thing, because if you think back to that draft, the Eagles traded up, I think, in that draft a couple spots to get Devontae Smith. And I know at the time, Patrick Surtain was someone that they were, really hot on and also trying to envision moving up for. Now Surtain, the Broncos stayed at 9, I want to say.
9. They got him at 9.
9, right? And they took him at 9. He has become, we're talking about Devontae Smith's teammate at Alabama here. He has become one of the best corners.
I think he's an all-pro.
I think he made all-pro this year in his year.
I voted for him, yeah.
Yeah. So if the Eagles would have actually taken him, instead of, if he was available to be taken and the Eagles have gotten him, I'd like to think that the similarity would have happened. It would have actually hit on a cornerback. I may have had to retire from inside the birds.
I think you said that. I think you said that if that happened, that you were going to do that. You felt that comfortable in your conviction.
I really did. I did, and they were that close to not to putting me into retirement.
Now, how about a safety?
Come on,
that's not going to happen.
Come on, Kyle Hamilton was sitting there, man.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Kyle Hamilton was sitting there.
You were getting sweaty palms with that.
I was not. That's how confident I was. I was not even worried one bit about it. I knew they weren't going to take him. All right, Rivers Casino Philadelphia is Philly's casino with everything you like to play. Check out Bet Rivers Sportsbook. It's the only place to watch the birds. Plus, watch and wager on your favorite sports all year round. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So we are waiting on still LeGarrette Blount, former Eagles running back, and what an amazing year that he had. I can't wait to really sit down and talk to LeGarrette Blount about it. Had to have felt like the swan song, like that. I know he signed the next year with somebody else. Didn't he, the Lions?
Yeah, but I don't think that maybe we'd have to ask him, but I thought he had some injury struggles there.
I think he did. I mean, his last really good year was obviously being on the Eagles.
Yeah,
it started off as kind of a mid-May signing, and you go into camp and hearing what we heard, maybe it's got to be in shape, which should follow him his career. He's got to be this, got to be that. Didn't really have a great preseason, which never matters, but it only added to the sort of context of what are you really getting in LeGarrette Blount here. And if you remember, right, week 1 is okay.
I think I know where you're going. The Chargers run.
Week 2. Well, it's all set up by week 2 against the Chiefs. They go out to Kansas City. They lose the game. This is how many carries LeGarrette Blount got in that game. And everybody was wondering, knowing his history and what had happened with Pittsburgh and then Tampa, right? What's he going to say? The man got 0 carries. but he did not complain. I don't remember hearing anything. There was a little players council meeting, I think, with the coaches about how you need to run the ball in the NFL, right? They got to Doug really quickly on that.
Yeah.
They weren't going to wait around for him to become Andy Reid 2.0. And then the following week, as you said, they go out to the Chargers.
He had a rumbling.
Oh, man. He had one really. He had like the thunderous runs that you've ever, the vintage LeGarrette Blount runs. And my lasting memory of that game, Andrew, is that the Eagles take the lead late in the fourth quarter. There's 6.5 minutes left to go. Yeah. They force a punt. All right. 6.5 minutes to go. You're up by a possession. I don't know if anybody physically said it, but they basically said, we can't let Phillip Rivers have one more chance. Right. They milked the final 6.5 minutes of that clock, methodically running the ball. LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement was in there. Who else was
Wendell Smallwood?
Wendell Smallwood, yeah, who started off as part of that trio. And they never let Phillip Rivers get his hands back on the ball. That was pretty.
That was
impressive.
masterful. Yeah, you're right. And as you're sort of going through that game, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a game that really altered the course of their season. And then I think of the week after that was the 61-yard field goal,
right?
Of course, by Jake Elliott.
Yeah, gotcha. So I know you and Adam spoke earlier about being at Kansas City earlier today. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of continue on that? I mean,
well, when we talk about X factors, that's something that I have made it a point to outline every week this year. And I think one of the X factors for Kansas City is going to be running back Jerick McKinnon, which is a player that I made a point to speak with. And I spoke to him at length today, Jeff, and just he had a career season. He had 56 catches. That's third on the Chiefs.
wow.
Right. I mean, when you think of it like that, as a backup running back, he had 9 receiving touchdowns. Knowing that the Chiefs they're absent of the big playmaker besides Travis Kelce, you look at what can they do? They're going to kind of have to find ways to manufacture yards. Obviously, having Patrick Mahomes back there alleviates a lot of that. But MVS, Valdez-Scantling's not a volume receiver, but he's a downfield weapon that I think they're going to utilize, but sparsely.
Right.
So I think what they're going to try and do, they're going to obviously try and force feed Kelce, but presumably the Eagles are going to try and take him away, which I think is going to open up the intermediary areas for Jerick McKinnon. Sure. And obviously knowing the Chiefs over the reliance on him in the passing game, I think that he could try and stretch out that defense, particularly testing TJ Edwards in space. And he's in an offense right now. It's his second year with the Chiefs that really accentuates his skill set. And when I asked him about that today, he said it all comes down to Coach Reid and the offensive coaches for finding and creating ways to get the ball to different players in creative ways.
Yeah.
So I think that you're starting to see what he's able to do when you have a coach that can maximize his potential.
Andy really didn't have to have a player of McKinnon's role with the Eagles because most of the running backs he had were guys who could catch the ball and run really well between the tackles. I mean, we're talking about Deuce and then Brian Westbrook,
Buckhalter,
then Shady McCoy, Buckhalter, who could catch the ball decently, but he was actually more of a runner than anything. I don't recall him really having a third down back or a receiving only back. Can you?
No. Outside of B West.
Who again was developed into a really good 3-down back, a runner.
I'm really hard pressed to even. I mean, they had Bryce Brown for a couple. He was around for. Are you going Andy Reid?
Yeah.
Reno Mahe. I mean, like what?
Yeah, no, it just didn't need it. This is sort of this kind of thunder and lightning combination that he's got with Isaiah Pacheco, a South Jersey kid from Vineland who runs so hard. Runs really hard.
He finishes runs.
Right. He's and they obviously don't throw the ball to him that much, but then they bring in McKinnon when they want to throw the ball around. And they mix up their offense so much that it's not telegraphic. They don't have to worry about that. But that's not really been Andy Reid's forte. I mean, he's sort of had this situation forced upon him because Clyde Edwards-Helaire really hasn't lived up to what he was supposed to be. He's had some injuries. And you know what? Even though he was injured this year, he was going to lose his job to Isaiah Pacheco. It seemed pretty clear at some point in the year anyway, and he did. Then did you get any sense now that McCole Hardman went on IR and they activated from IR CEH that he will have any kind of role in this game?
Not really. It's kind of hard to thrust somebody into such a prominent role on the biggest stage when you've been on the shelf and idle for much of the season, especially when you could look at, I mean, if you want to look at it from another layer, I mean, what's his confidence going to be like? He just lost his job to a 7th round running back when he was taken to be the next Brian Westbrook in Andy Reid's offense.
Right.
So I don't know that you also want to mess with the chemistry because you have a good two-headed rushing attack and Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon that I don't know that you want to throw somebody in there that could sort of mess up their continuity and things like that.
Yeah, I mean they're doing so well right now. You're right. I think he's there, but there's no. I don't. Again, Pacheco was going to replace him, whether or not he got hurt.
He was nearly a Draft Dreams interview, by the way.
Who's that?
Isaiah Pacheco.
Really? I forgot.
I was this close. It was a scheduling issue. We had him, and he got the time. It was a timing thing on his end.
Okay. All right. Oh, now I remember.
But do you remember that though?
I do. I remember. If everybody, we have so many new followers. So Andrew in the off season does a lot of great college scouting work for Inside the Birds and content creation. And last year we started a show called the Draft Dreams with Andrew DeCecco, where we really hyper focused on. We try to keep it a small school. Now, Pacheco went to Rutgers, which isn't a small school, but sort of small school or lesser known draft prospects and how they were preparing for the draft. And most of those guys have really amazing stories.
Yeah.
They're not like first round picks, so they got to scratch, they got to claw, they got to do the circuit. So remind us who we had on, because a couple of guys stand out now.
Zion McCollum we had
Zion McCollum
and his twin brother Tristan signed with the Eagles.
Just signed a futures deal, right?
Right. We had we almost had Isaiah. We had Jeffrey Gunter, who played defensive line for the Bengals this year.
Right. From Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. Now we had
Joshua Williams. We almost had. He's on the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
That's right.
I saw him this morning.
Who's the wide receiver we had from the 49ers?
Oh, Danny Gray. Danny Gray played a handful of games this year. He's a really good deep threat, but the Niners have so many weapons that he wasn't going to see the field in year one. But he was taken in the third round, obviously with the idea in mind that he's going to be a prominent piece.
Sure. And then there was one more. So we had the corner. Wasn't there a wide receiver not named Danny Gray that we all? Oh no, the running back. I'm a Sincere McCormick. Yeah.
But we also had a wide receiver he ended up going undrafted, went to the Saints, and nearly made the team.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting.
I'd have to go back. I can't even remember.
I have to go back to the archives. But it's hard to believe that was almost a year ago that we did all this.
I know. It really was, because we got our draft and free agency preparation started early.
Yeah.
Last year, pretty much. By this time we were a couple of weeks into it.
Yeah.
But no, that's not the case. The Eagles in the Super Bowl. They'll play the Kansas City Chiefs. What an angle! What a storyline! A subplot with Andy Reid, and that's been hyper discussed throughout the week, and it'll continue to be discussed throughout the week. You have not been to State Farm Stadium, have you?
I have not, but I'm really excited to check it out. I might even get out there a day early. People keep telling me there's this really good barbecue place called Shane's right there that I have to check out. And I kind of want to see what it's like the calm before the storm.
Yeah, it's a pretty raucous arena. I'll give you that. I was a little normally when we come out to the West Coast, it's not as intense, it's not as passionate, it's not as, raucous as just even walking through the Link parking lot. But this stadium won't have Cardinals fans in it, obviously, but you're going to talk about two of the best fan bases that the NFL has, and that's Eagles fan base and Chiefs fan base. So, and then I'm sure a lot of Cardinals fans who are from the area who were able to get a ticket will be in there. So I expect it to be a pretty rocking environment.
Yeah, I'm going to get there way early. I want to kind of absorb the environment, maybe walk through the parking lots, gauge the temperature. But yeah, you're right. I think it's going to be an electric environment, and I mean, you already see it permeating through the streets right now. You see a lot of Eagles green, you see a lot of Kansas City red. I mean, I have, and I think it's only going to build as the week continues to progress. But it's going to be an awesome environment. I can't wait.
Now, who's singing the national anthem? I did not see that.
I have to check on that.
Not bringing Anita back for that too.
No, Anita was great, by the way, for the NFC Championship game. Obviously, a favorite of Jalen Hurts.
Yes, so I thought she was. I think I feel like I've heard Anita sing better.
Definitely.
Maybe was it really cold then, or was it actually kind of warm?
It wasn't. Right? It wasn't. It was dreary. Remember, it was raining and stuff. Yeah. I just thought it was cool to see Anita Baker.
It was definitely
have her do it. And I think she was singing it, and I was looking at the sideline, and Jalen was like right across.
Oh yeah,
so it was kind of cool.
A proud moment for Jalen Hurts. Absolutely. But she sung it in a style that I was not expecting, I guess. I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of don't try to alter the national anthem. I think
Right.
I think that it knows what it's doing, and people know what to expect from that.
Is Whitney still the GOAT?
I think so.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Whitney is the GOAT. She's the GOAT national anthem singer there's ever been. Now, Rihanna is the halftime act.
Yeah, Rihanna's the halftime act. Now, I'm not a Rihanna guy,
Uh-huh.
but Rihanna's guitar player, Nuno Betancourt, it was a prolific 80s guitar player, and he obviously went off and he was with the band Extreme.
Sure.
So they did that song More Than Words. That's him playing acoustic guitar.
Gotcha. Now, what is it's two guys with long blonde hair, right?
No, Extreme was actually a 4-piece, but that song that took him to the top was just Gary Sharon, the lead singer,
Right,
and
Gary.
Nuno Betancourt.
Uh-huh.
But fast forward to now, and Nuno is Rihanna's guitar player. So
That's
I think that's pretty cool.
We got to bring you on for more like crossover music sports analysis. That was fantastic.
There you go. I'm watching for Nuno Betancourt.
There you go. Now I am a big Rihanna fan, so and you know what? Last year's act is going to be hard, but Rihanna could do. Last year was incredible for a guy who grew up on '90s hip hop like myself. That was really amazing. I love seeing it all. But it's good. Rihanna's good. Now, does Jay-Z do the whole? Does he do every halftime of the Super Bowl now?
He did last year's.
I think he's in charge of all the Super Bowl. Yeah, he doesn't do them. He's in charge of putting them together. I thought that was the case. Or maybe like his,
possibly. But imagine that kind of power. You have to have that kind of power where you can dictate the Super Bowl halftime show. Wouldn't surprise me if anybody could do it. It'd be Jay-Z.
Now you're a big. I know you are a big '80s hairband guy.
Sure.
So
look at that hair.
Adam Caplan making fun now. Are you going to come in and join us or what? All right. Who was there ever a good '80s hairband guy or act in the Super Bowl that you could think of?
I don't think they booked
no Motley Crue.
I don't think they booked Poison or Skid Row.
Wait a minute. Didn't Tommy Lee do a little Home Sweet Home on a piano in halftime with something?
Not at the Super Bowl. They had the closest thing that they had to a rock act that I could think of was either Springsteen or the Who.
They had Springsteen. They had the Who. What do you mean the closest thing? The Who has been
but like you said 80s hair band.
Oh yeah.
So the rock music, you'd have to go all the way back to 2009.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Even though players come out to Hell's Bells from AC/DC and play Welcome to the Jungle.
That's my favorite music, man, to warm up for tennis.
Yeah.
Blast it. There's nothing better than it.
Welcome back, Adam Caplan.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Super Bowl, man.
You're a man about town. We're getting LeGarrette Blount
LG
in, I want to say, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And we were sort of reflecting on, and we'll talk to him about it when he comes, but we were sort of reflecting on he was an addition late May that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds right.
Because he has the name, I remember when they signed him, everybody's like, oh my God, it's LeGarrette Blount. Yeah. And then by preseason, when he didn't have a great preseason, the whole offense didn't, it was, oh man, we're in trouble. And then as we were going through this early start of the year, week 2, he gets goose egg carries. And then right from there, it was like everything changed.
Oh, was it the Kansas City game when they passed like whatever 60 some odd times?
Yes.
And the players committee said, Doug, okay, enough. That's right. I remember that. Right. LG, man. I didn't know what he had left at that point, but it's another one of those. I don't think they won a Super Bowl without him kind of guys. And the next year he was done with Detroit. He had nothing left.
Yeah. What happened there? We were trying to get hurt. I forget.
Yeah.
He
averaged like maybe less than 3 yards a carry. He just, we could ask, he didn't seem to have it. And he retired. He had a really good career considering everything that happened with Pittsburgh. You really wondered, as you mentioned earlier, at Oregon with Chip.
Well,
did he really grow up?
When he came into the league, he had that reputation.
As we talked today, Andrew, about that with Geoff on Brandon Graham. The thing that hearing you talk about it and you talk about Brandon, the more I learn about the players when they come in, it's no different than us when we were in the early 20s. How immature I was, spending money, doing stupid bleep. You can't expect. I mean, I know on our show we'll tell the truth. We in the 2020 season, Geoff and I had all the stories that were going on with the receivers are too immature.
Right.
So I think we need to take a look back at players when they're drafted and understand that not everyone is Jalen Hurts. It's so mature. Father's a coach.
Yes.
You just have to understand it's not always going to work, but you got to the team. The Eagles. I'll say this. Howie said this to me years ago. They asked him about it. This is many years ago about the roster. He goes, we can't just cut guys. Got to let them develop. You just can't. If they're struggling the first year. Okay. Now, Joe Banner said, you got to see something by year 2, though. Can't always wait after year 2 if you don't see it. But you've seen all these players, these young kids, but eventually it's got to click. But LG, it took him a long while to get out of his own way. But once he did, stud player and everyone's favorite teammate.
You bring up a really good point there. I mean, obviously, all the poking and prying that goes through the draft prospects. I mean, teams know what you're getting, but not everybody's going to come in there like a Jalen Hurts, 24 years old with a 55.
And after what he's been through,
right? I mean, not everybody's as battle tested as that. So sometimes you have to, everybody progresses at a different rate, and I think that's something that's sort of forgotten about when you're sort of looking at a prospect.
no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point on first year, you get a break. Second year, you got to show something. And I know that when you look at this Eagles team, it had to still go through a process as early as training camp to really be what it is now. And then obviously the move, you have to give Howie Roseman credit. The move to move on from Jalen Reagor, a first-round pick, after just 2 years is not something I think Howie would have done in the past.
No, it's a great point.
One more year, but he looked at what he had. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Quez being able to make plays from the slot. And I think he rightly felt that it's not going to benefit the Eagles and it's not going to benefit Jalen Reagor to have this first-round pick sitting on the bench to sit there and be the first-round pick sitting on the bench.
You're so right. Howie hung on to so many older players. In fact, might have been after the Super Bowl about not wanting to walk away from these older players.
Yeah.
But he's done better at it. He's not great at it, but he's getting better at it. It's not easy to do that, particularly when you're the one who's picking the players. And these GMs, Thomas Dimitroff, who came on with us, kind of talked about it. It's not easy to walk away from players that you drafted, that you want to develop. Then at some point, you got to say it's just not going to work.
Right.
Exactly.
So listen, I want to ask you this. You've been walking around talking to a lot of people here.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 people walking around Radio Row. You're asking them about the Eagles. I keep getting asked this by our Philadelphia sports.
Alex Singleton, I just talked to him.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's going to be joining us one of these days.
We're trying. He's
right.
here for Special Olympics. He's actually fully booked. I tried to stick him in for 7 minutes over here.
All right.
Couldn't do it. But no, but what he said is interesting.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad we're going to talk about this now because he has a sentiment. You said, what are people saying about the Eagles? He just was there last year at 21. He goes, look, and he didn't want to criticize the team. He goes, Russia's really good. They should be really good.
Yes.
And that's just the way he said it. So matter of fact, I was like, okay, you're right. We've all said that. They have a great roster, right?
Right.
Do they not?
Absolutely.
So that's the point. We've been telling our great viewers and listeners, right, that there's a lot of feet in Philadelphia, because I was asked this when we did our earlier hit on the Fanatic. It seems like the Eagles are getting disrespected. If you're living in Philadelphia right now or the area, you're hearing what Julian Love said. You're hearing what Brandon Ayuk said. You're hearing what maybe one person in the national media said about Jalen Hurts. But when you're here in the epicenter of it all and you're around a much larger gene pool of NFL coaches, executives, players, former players, analysts, you can't walk three steps without hearing somebody raving about how good the Eagles are.
I can't believe it. And what we've all said, it's just 2 years ago, they were terrible. Now, Alex Singleton said, well, we had a better roster, but he said we're so beat up, which is true. I thought it was a fair point. But to go from awfulness of Doug Peterson getting fired, and Jeff and I are reporting in it, we were just like giving a play-by-play about, okay, they're meeting at the compound. Doug's still not been fired yet. What's going to happen?
Right.
Okay, he's got to fire Press Taylor. He's not going to fire him. Okay, the coaches are begging him not, hey, Doug, this is what something's got to happen here. And then Doug was not willing to take the bullet, and he said, screw it, I'm out. It's hard to believe, man.
So when the Eagles play the Jaguars in the Super Bowl in 5-6 years, what a story!
Can you imagine?
Right?
By the way, that's not a bad
Jeffrey
roster.
drew a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Doug drew a line in the sand, and they met up again.
I mean, they
Years later,
went from Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward on offense to what they have right now. I mean, it's remarkable.
Hey, hang on. John Hightower, Quez Watkins.
Oh no!
Keep going.
We can go when the injury settled in and it got to Deontay Burnett.
Your guy. Yeah, your guy.
Joshua Perkins. Did you say Josh Perkins? No, you did. You love Joshua.
You love that one.
Joshua Perkins.
Right. I mean, Greg Ward, Henry Rice on that.
Hey,
team.
Andrew, we have to do shows and talk about this crap.
I know it.
That's when I said to Jeff, we were talking off the air one time, and we were trying to figure out our business. I said, if they don't get good soon, we're done.
Right.
Because there's a great story. I don't have permission to. Well, I do have permission to tell it, but and this person who told me with the Patriots said that if they didn't draft Brady, Robert Kraft may not have owned the team because he put up so much money to build Patriot Place and all this, that, and the other. If they didn't turn it around, he may not be able to keep the team.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing? Now, Jeffrey Lurie had plenty of money, and not that Robert Kraft didn't, but he put out a lot of money. Just to come this far in 2 years to me, I'm still kind of in awe of this thing as we see that sign in front of us.
Yes.
So it's Kelsey, Hurts, Mahomes, and Juju.
Juju. Wow, that's a sort of an odd selection of. How would you not take Travis Kelsey?
Yeah, Kelsey. Yeah,
I mean, Travis Kelsey, Chris Jones, Frank Clark. I know Juju is Mr. Like he loves the personality.
Yeah,
he
but
loves to
that's
take
kind of random.
Yeah, that is very, very random.
it's $4 million deal. It's pumped up to 10 million. Yeah.
You know, the really this brings up a good conversation though, because the Eagles, as people are telling us here, have the best team, the best roster. There are some areas where the Eagles have the most blue chip of talent, and the Chiefs are not that far behind. It's just amazing how similarly they are. Take Jason Kelsey. It's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Best center
I
of
would
the
say
game.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point,
He should,
at one point I doubted it, but I think this point he's going, especially if he plays more, right? Creed Humphrey might be the second best player.
He's really good.
He's
really good.
Who's talking about Creed Humphrey here this week? No, everybody's talking about.
Well, actually, no, he's not quite himself, but Lane Johnson will be a Hall of Famer, I think. Now, what do you think, guys? Does he have the suspension? What do you think?
I just, yes, suspension notwithstanding, I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, look what he's done. I mean, it's remarkable.
He's elite.
He is elite.
The best tackle in the game.
He is elite.
In my opinion.
There's a lot of. I think Hall of Fame will be tough unless he plays more. I think if he calls it a career after this, and you start measuring him against even guys he play like the Jason Peterses and the Trent Williams, they're going to say he might have been as good as them on his best day, but these guys did it for 15 years.
Sure.
And then you have a bunch of offensive tackles already in the Hall of Fame, so longevity might hurt him, maybe even more than the suspension stuff. But I think there also might be a push from people who realize that when he played. See, it's like the Terrell Davis thing. Terrell Davis played like a whole.
I wouldn't have voted for him. I would not have.
Right, because he
Didn't play long enough.
Yeah, right. So I think that will probably factor into the conversation.
That's fair
when it comes to him. But you never know. Now that's the one position where you say it's not even close from Andrew Wiley to Lane Johnson,
and that's a matchup we're going to talk on Friday, man.
Right.
This is someone who I trust with personnel around the league said he goes Philly will crush Andrew Wiley. He goes if they don't like. He goes. The guy knew about Sweat because he's seen the Eagles tape. He goes, Sweat will do well, but this kid will kill him, Reddick.
Yeah.
Because he won't be able to touch him. He's too fast.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to get some help.
I was
just on the Fanatic. They asked me, Ricky Bo asked me that question. It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't like keeping in.
So Q&A addressed this.
Yeah, I know this year's doing a little bit more.
Tape, they're doing that
a little bit more. Yeah.
Now, not keeping in the traditional sense where I'm going to put my tight end right next to Andrew Wiley and give myself 6-man protection for the entire, but a lot more chipping, a lot more trying to get bodies on guys. Yeah, I think he's going to get some help. You know, a little.
That's going to be the game. That's going to be the game within the game right there.
Yeah.
How do they contend with?
What are the matchups? Let's start with you, Andrew. What are the matchups you're so looking forward to?
Gardner Johnson on Travis Kelsey.
Oh, you think okay?
I think that would be the most sound approach for that. And then I would look at Andrew Wiley and Hassan Reddick. Those are two matchups that I'm really focused on.
So it's interesting you brought up CJ Gardner-Johnson on Kelsey because ordinarily in the Eagles nickel defense with Avonte Maddox healthy, he would see probably more.
Exactly.
But I did have some conversations with some people in the league who are familiar with both these teams, and they do think that they will not hesitate to make a move there. Maybe it's playing more base that gets CJ there into the slot and Reed Blankenship out at safety if they're a nickel, but there is a thought process out there that the Eagles will try to get CJ Gardner on Travis Kelsey more so than maybe.
I thought that was going to be what they were going to do with Kittle.
I thought it might be White.
We never had a chance to see that because the passing game.
The Kaiser Whitewood. Yeah.
So those are two really good matchups. What about you?
Oh boy, I would say no. It would be Reddick, Wiley. Do they spy Hurts? Now, Hurts is clearly not trying to run as much. They're obviously not. He's doing a great job of protecting himself. Like I wasn't. Look, this is different for him running out of bounds or diving. Darren Woodson, former Cowboy, a good friend of mine from ESPN, just walked by. We got to get the Woody. We got to get the Woody this week. Woody, where you can be? Oh yeah, we will. We will. Great. Number 28, by the way, in your program. This is what is great about being at Radio Row. You never knew you're going to see.
That's true. Maybe the only
we'll get him tomorrow.
The Cowboy will allow on this.
He's a great dude. Oh, he's such a great dude.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people.
Spikes is right over there.
So what?
Wait, Spikes is here?
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing a podcast, by the way.
Yeah. Former Eagles.
How's the neck? Is his neck still like
the neck roll?
Yeah. I was going to say
his big neck. Yeah.
Never had one. To your point, though, a couple of people I spoke to also think that it's almost like the 49ers, and they're good, so you can understand why they played with a little bit too much arrogance up front, meaning that they tried to play the RPO. Like, we're going to try to play both. And you saw Nick Bosa did it pretty well at the start, right? He nearly tackled Jalen Hurts in the end zone. Some people think the Chiefs won't even try. They'll just do what the Bears did and make Jalen keep the ball, which means you crash your edge defender, right, on the running back and just make Jalen keep the ball. And if Jalen wants to keep it and run left, run right, they're going to try to hit.
And by the way,
some people
AJ Brown's going to kill Trent. I know that they have good young corners. AJ Brown's going to kill him. I'm telling you, this is
a big game.
I got to look what his prop is. We'll drop our props on a Friday morning show. I'm not. Devontae Smith's been unbelievable. Kelsey Jr., as I call Goddard, he's due for. He could go off at any time. The Chiefs just can't match up against them. I don't know what Spags is going to do.
Line up against them.
It's funny. I keep thinking that Devontae is going to have the bigger game.
He is.
I like that. I think he was slated for 65 yards. I think he goes over that.
Yeah. Now, you were not with us when Clay Harbor.
No, you guys are looking at having a good time. Yeah.
He also thinks that Devontae Smith is the guy that is probably going to wreak the most havoc.
Okay. Another surprise. I am shocked at how good he is. I get he won the Heisman Trophy, which is rare for a receiver in college, but what he has done in the second half of the season, other than in my time covering the Eagles, I'm going T.O., Deshaun, the chip year when he had like 1,400 or 1,500 yards. A.J. Brown's been great, but what Devontae's done the second half of the season, it's been something special, man, because when you look at the way he's built and his route running is just, I cannot wait to see him next year. It's going to be hard because they have 3 pass targets who have to get the football, but I think these coaches now know he's got to get the ball. You go in game planning, he has to get the football. He wins.
Yes. He wins
all the time.
Consistently.
Do you think that they will come out heavy throwing deep or sort of middle throwing deep? But I mean,
Goddard over the middle. Goddard will kill them.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they do with their safety group.
Or Thornhill, maybe.
Could be. Yep. Or they use a linebacker on him.
There's Alex Singleton right there.
Yeah.
One of the things that keeps coming up is that while the Chiefs are very talented in the front seven, they don't have the depth that the Eagles have. And if the Eagles get their quick game running early and get them tired and then just turn to the ground.
And you can run on them, by the way.
We were talking about this, just inside zone. Don't even get cute, right? You saw what they did to the 49ers. It was just basically double team in the middle, and drive the guys back.
It was something else. Those double teams off the coaching tape. Like, this doesn't happen against that front.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have elite players and really good coaching and they get it. They're not going to make everybody happy. People want them to run the ball all the time. You know that's never going to happen. But when they decide they want to run the football, it's something pretty interesting. And the thing that I love, we were talking about this earlier, they can do it at any time. Look, even if when they don't get a good start, they decide to do it in the third quarter, they run, they're great. You saw against the Packers when they did it.
Right.
Against the Giants, they've done it. They've got it going on right now.
They definitely do. All right, couple minutes away from LeGarrette Blount. I'm really excited about.
I think
never met him.
Is he over there? Is that him right there?
This is what happened. They go table to table to table.
No, wait. He had a. Yes, I believe so. Because that's his man that our guy Josh is talking to right now. So should be here momentarily. Looking forward to it. What have you been gleaning while you've been out there?
No, I'm just I'm doing some work for Sports Grid, but I'm just having those conversations like you were talking about. Just ask about the Chiefs, the week. Ran into a bunch of ex-players. I was talking to you about Larry Centers. Well, I didn't know that his last season in the NFL was with the Patriots who won a Super Bowl. That was the 05 one.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting perspective of how they see this. I'll say,
awesome.
But
all right,
by the way, it's pretty well known. By the way, most ex-players who didn't even play for the Eagles know the Eagles have the best roster.
Yeah, cool. and that goes with what Geoff was saying. I mean, in Philadelphia, you're hearing about the Ayuk and the Julian Love, but general consensus here, the Eagles have the best team in the NFL.
I don't know what it's going to look like next year, but
better roster,
the better roster. And they it's funny. Julian Love, he basically admitted it's almost like a cheat code. Like, it's not fair. They have the best roster.
Yeah,
that's really what he's saying.
Well, when people ask me, so what do you think about Brandon Ayuk's comments? I say, who cares?
Yeah,
it has no bearing on this week or what happens on Sunday.
I like Love's comments because he was basically admitting they're just better than everybody else because the roster's just better.
Right.
Now you don't want to give anyone credit. Okay. But by the way, the coaches the players aren't coaching themselves.
Exactly.
Don't just roll the ball. All right, guys, just do your thing.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out. You
That's
know,
funny.
it's like
That's funny. We're gonna go into the NovaCare complex.
yeah.
All right, we are waiting. It's just a few seconds away from LeGarrette Blount
good.
coming and joining us, so I'm really excited for that.
It was only 1 year, right? Was it just 17?
That was his only year as an Eagle.
Wow.
17, yeah.
2000
Running backs in 16.
Wendell Smallwood was one.
Kenyon Barner.
Darren Sproles.
Was Barner there?
Yeah,
Kenyon he was there for like 4 or 5 years, right?
Darren Sproles was one.
Yeah, Sprolesy.
Remember, Sproles had that 4th down touchdown.
Oh,
Was that,
Ryan Matthews. Was it Ryan Matthews?
Oh, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Ryan Matthews.
Who
There's
then
another,
his career ended knee injury, right?
yeah, a famous Ryan
neck.
walking behind us right now. In the background, you can see
Ryan
Ryan
Leaf.
Leaf. There you go.
We'll get him. We'll get Riley.
Awesome. Can't
He's great. He's a good
look
dude.
forward to that too.
He's had his turnaround in his life.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to reading his book called Bust. How about that?
That's got to be a heck of a
It's
book,
out
man.
already.
It's a life
It's
thing.
out already, Adam.
I think I heard him talking about it. I got to get it.
That's gonna be a fascinating
Yeah.
read.
Did you guys happen to catch Ryan Leaf's satirical video from earlier this week about the whole script that every NFL player is given that Arian Foster said on a podcast?
No,
Oh, well, 145 now for, oh no. Okay, we're down to 145. All right. So, yeah, really quick as Garrett Blount walks over, you heard Arian Foster say on a podcast that the NFL is scripted and he got his.
Oh, that. Yeah.
All the quote tweets on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ryan Leaf, who, as you just mentioned, wrote a book about the trials and tribulations that he encountered being an NFL player, did a satirical thing about how his script called for him to be.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's so great.
Awesome.
I love Ryan Leaf.
All right,
All right, Andrew, we appreciate it. We'll have you back on in hour 4, I'm sure. And as we conclude here, hour 3 of Inside the Birds
How's it
Radio
going, man?
Live, we are going to talk with the guy. It's been great, man. I really enjoyed Clay Harbor interview. I thought we had a great one with Ross Tucker
By the
too.
way, Jim McMahon was unbelievable.
Jim McMahon,
Folks,
For
if
those
you
who got
you
Jim
have to see the
McMahon, it's
replay,
great.
you'll be blown away.
Absolutely. All right, here he is, the man, former
LG.
Eagles running back, LG, LeGarrette Blount. You're the OG now, my friend. Good to see you.
What's up, man?
Yeah. Geoff Mosher Adam
I'm Adam.
Caplan,
Nice to
man.
meet you.
How you doing, man?
John G. Filippo said hi. He's a big fan of yours. Yeah, Flip's a big fan of yours.
Flip likes you.
Yeah.
I love Flip. That's my
He loves you, man. He said super cool. He didn't know you before you came there, I guess.
right.
Said you're super cool, such a good leader.
I like Flip, man. That's my guy, man. You gotta tell him I said.
Well, you say that as a coach, but how did you get to know him other than
I mean, he probably knew of me before I got there.
okay?
But after meeting him, me and him kind of became tight after that. I like Flip. Obviously, he was a coach at Philly.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah.
So and he's always been funny. He's always been straight up. He's always been a really good guy to me. He's always had my back at all times.
Yeah.
Obviously, whenever it's been a couple games where I didn't get enough carries or the carries that I wanted to get, he's always like, "Man, LG, but we need you." So,
All right.
oh, my bad. I didn't know you started.
I was just gonna say, you're gonna have a great career in the media once you start doing this. All right, because you got the personality.
Storytelling.
I didn't know we were starting.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 3, 2, 1.
It's live stream. To say hello to everybody
Hey,
else.
what's
All the
up,
Eagles
everybody?
fans.
Garrett Blount coming to a social media near you. Hey, make sure y'all vote for me to be in one of these media spots next year. Have my own show, the whole 9. I'm trying to learn. These guys
All
will
right,
teach
man.
me the ropes.
Still,
There
man.
you go, LG on radio.
Oh, wait a minute. Should we have? You want to host a show?
I want my own.
Hey, we'll talk.
I want to host a show. Yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
Okay.
Do you know Quentin, Michael, and Jason Avant, former Eagles? You
Yeah.
remember them?
Oh, hell yeah.
They host they host one of the most popular shows on our Inside the Birds platform. So we can
Oh, Q&A. Yep.
Okay, let's definitely talk about that. I am with it.
Did you meet Clay Harbor?
The more and more. Yeah, I already
You know
seen
Clay,
him.
right?
A big swole ass.
Yeah.
That too little shirt on. He came out here to try to impress the women, man.
Yes, he did.
Can't come out here to work.
Hey, man, if you got, I guess,
Yeah.
You
there
see,
you
he
go.
probably did 100 push-ups before he walked in here.
Might have sprayed the water.
Man, make sure he's listening. My shirt.
Where's the bathroom? Is it that one?
You see, he got it buttoned up. He only got it buttoned up to right here.
I think he was going straight to the club after our interview. So
The day party at the W.
definitely. LG, good catch up with you. Before we start talking to you about your Eagles career, your NFL career, everything that's going on, why don't you tell us what you're doing here at Radio Row?
I am here to promote my company, LG's Feel Good, all natural, all organic, 100% THC free CBD company, as a way for us to get away from the opioids, get away from taking all the pills, getting away from the possibility of addiction, just to get away from all of these things. That's why I'm here. I just want to spread knowledge. I just want to let everyone know that there's a different way to medicate and a different way to be healthy other than ingesting pills.
We had Jim McMahon, NFL legend,
Yep.
with us, and he was saying some of the same things you are and talking about the difficulty of getting the NFL itself to stop testing and just understand the all natural nature of what you're talking about
Yes.
and how important it is and to get off the pills.
Yes, I agree with him 100%. I've been at an event with McMahon, so I agree, and he has pretty much some of the same values that I have when it comes to talking about this and being in this space. And I agree with him. I think that they should cut off the testing. Test for the stuff that you need to freaking test for. Test for freaking cocaine. Test for freaking crack. You know what I'm saying? Like, test for things like that. Now, I'm not saying like guys are using these kind of drugs, but I'm saying like test for the drugs that are killing people. You know what I'm saying? Don't test for the drugs that people are using to help. You know what I'm saying? You might use this for anxiety. You might use this to wind down. You might be too amped up. You know what I'm saying? This person might use it to sleep. This person might use it for pain. There's so many positive avenues in this space, and I don't think that they respect it. I think they look at it as frowned upon, because understand that this league has 32 owners, all in which are probably 75 or 80 years old. You know what I'm saying?
We're in the 70s at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're stuck in their ways.
Sure.
Right. Even I grew up thinking that this was bad for you.
Right.
And I'm 36.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the difference is I read about it, I learned about it, I saw it, I asked a lot of people about it, and I gathered information about what it does and what it is and how it can help and how it can help. I don't see any ways that it can help, but I see a bunch of ways that it can. And a lot of guys have to hide using it because they don't want to get suspended or they don't want to get in trouble, but give these guys a way to deal with pain rather than
I've taken CBD for 2 or 3 years. I love it.
Yes.
That's what
if it's a guy that, all right, so think about this. If it's a guy that deals with anxiety, sleeping problems, and pain, in the league, there's a pill for anxiety, there's a pill for sleeping problems, and there's a pill for pain. 3 different pills. You got to take these for 7 days a week. That's 21 pills in a week span.
Right.
That's not healthy. That's not good for you.
No.
Right? So they don't look at it that way. I'm pretty sure the doctors know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the league knows. I'm sure that they've seen that, last year or a year and a half before now, a guy just died from liver problems, was one of the healthiest guys I've ever known. And he died from liver problems, and which I'm pretty sure he probably didn't know he had. And it's not fair.
Right.
It's not okay. You got parents that are going to deal with this. You got a parent that is, I lost my kid. He was 100% healthy. He's gone now. They have no clue. They're not thinking, oh, he's been taking these pain pills for 10 years, 15 years. They're not thinking that. They're trying to figure out what is going on.
Right.
And 10, 15 years from now, those pills aren't going to show up in your system saying, oh, well, the pain pills killed him or these pills killed him. It's going to be, hey, he died from liver. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So take the proactive approach, like the MLB. The MLB signed a big deal with Charlotte's Web. So now Charlotte's Web is a CBD company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Number
Okay.
one CBD, it's number one CBD company in the world.
Okay.
And they sponsor all MLB teams now.
Are the players allowed to take it?
Oh yeah,
I mean, why? I don't know why they should be.
Yeah, the MLB signed a deal with them, so that's not a deal with Major League Baseball. So
Yes.
every team
Progress.
It's progress. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Now let's say it doesn't work for them. You can cancel.
What would work?
That's what I'm saying. But if let's say it doesn't work for them,
You mean the players?
or the MLB. Or
Okay.
let's say it don't work out for the MLB.
Okay.
They can always cancel that contract.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Well, this ain't work. We tried it for 2 years. It didn't work.
Right.
We didn't get no players. No players died or get sick from it, but it ain't getting received well.
Right.
Cool. You don't got no long-term effects from it. It is what it just didn't work for you guys.
Right.
So what I'm trying to get the NFL to do is just get on that level. Try this. Reach out to someone that is well known, me, who has a platform, me, and who knows about pain, who knows about anxiety. I'm an advocate for all these things. reach out to me and find out what this stuff does for you. That's on the positive note.
How do you feel physically since retiring?
You know what? I definitely still deal with like some pain issues. You know,
Okay.
my hip. Obviously, I broke my hip at one point. You know, knee, lower back. You know, all these. You know, the generic pains of playing in the NFL, right? Just the generic pains of playing in the NFL. I deal with those every day,
Sure.
and that's one of the reasons why I am so heavily involved and so heavily on this, because I think this is the way.
How much has it helped you?
It has helped me tremendously.
How so?
It's life changing. I wake up in the morning. If I wake up in the morning with back pain, I'll throw a patch on and I can continue out throughout my day without that pain. These patches last 24 to 36 hours, and it's transdermal technology. So if I wake up in my let's say my shoulders hurt, I'm gonna wear a short sleeve shirt. I don't got to put it on my shoulder. I can put this patch on my back again. I can put it on my leg. I can put it on anywhere I want to, and it has transdermal technology in it. So it sends the medicine to the pain receptors. So you don't have to, you know, you've seen people walk around with a nicotine patch on.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, bro, you got, oh, you smoke? It's like, yeah, bro, yeah. Obviously, I got a nicotine patch on. I'm trying to stop. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to stop. So, you know, you can hide this. Now you don't have anybody asking you weird questions about, oh, what that patch is for. You know what I'm saying? So,
Wow, that's interesting.
These are all different things. I got my gummies are sleep gummies, you know. My daughter is a huge advocate for that because she's 16, right? These don't have any THC in it. So she's 16 and she'll take it. Dad, you got any more? Like she loves them, you know what I'm saying? Because they help her sleep. Sometimes she have trouble, sometimes she don't. You know, my anxiety drops. She's on those. She suffers from social anxiety. She is not big on crowds. She's not big on enclosed spaces. Like she's not big on having to walk around here and communicate with people. Like she'll be really shy. She'll probably start sweating.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because she's just anxiety and she lives on these. I live on these because I've learned to be able to be in this space and be comfortable, but it took me a long time to get here.
Yeah, I would bet. And look, you're a guy throughout your career, right?
Yes, sir.
You probably took 10 times more hits
Oh my gosh.
than the average running back.
Yes, sir.
How did you even become a running back? Because we live in the age where you're a certain size, you run a certain 40,
Right.
You're a certain this, you're playing that position, and we're going to focus on that even though you just got out of your diaper. So how did you even become a running back?
I became a running back and rec football probably in 6th grade is when I first played running back. My uncle was the head coach of the team. My uncle was the head coach of the team. My dad was the assistant coach. You know what I'm saying? But before I got there, my dad had his own team. They were the Steelers. They were champions.
Where'd you grow up?
Years I grew up in Perry, Florida.
Okay.
So they were champions for a couple years in a row. And and so when this is funny, whenever we only have 4 teams. This is a small place. We only have 4 teams. So whenever you enter, like, okay, I'm gonna play rec tackle this year, they let you get drafted. They actually let you, hey man, I'm gonna pick LeGarrette. He gonna be on my team. My uncle was the first pick. He coached the Falcons. He knew that my dad coached the Steelers. He wanted to pick me, right? My uncle was the first pick. Hey, I'm grabbing LeGarrette. He's playing for the And with this, every year you can retain one player from.
Oh, wow.
So every year he retained me, and then he picked, you know, obviously some other pieces. So after that first
fantasy
year,
football team, I'm gonna keep this guy.
After that first year, my dad left the Steelers and came and coached for the Falcons. And obviously, you know, the coaches over there was like, "Bro, that's effed up." You know, it's like, "Bro, this is youth football." Like, so at that point, that's when my dad said, "Hey, man, you know, put him at running back. Let's see what he does." And my first play at running back was probably like a 99-yard touchdown.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys must have had a pretty good QB because usually it would have looked like this is the biggest guy, the strongest guy. Let him be a quarterback.
The QB was the shortest, smallest, bow-legged guy on the team.
That's why they gave you the ball.
His dad owned the funeral home in the local city, and he's the one that sponsored the league. Like, obviously he sponsored the league and stuff. So we had to start him at quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But all he did was hand the ball to me.
There you go. And that's where it all began. LG, I wish we had more time with you, man. I really appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate you guys, man.
It was great. Real quick, who's going to win this game? Do you liking your team or what?
I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I like them to win. I like them to win by 10.
10.
Okay.
All right. Some of the guys you still play with. out there trying to do it again.
Oh, I'm like, hold on, who's over here, bro? Y'all should now be
Jason
I'm gonna
Kelsey's
change my
time over
pick
there.
right now. If the players are here,
Oh yeah.
we're gonna change my pick, right? Okay, yeah. I got to that. They got to change that juju and put Kelsey right there too. So
People,
Kelsey in a great marketing strategy. Kelsey,
how in the world is Kelsey doing it? And BG and Lane.
because Kelsey keeps his body healthy, man. He plays center. There's not someone lined up over him every single play. He knows how to keep his head out of it. He's very, very smart. And I mean, he's a great leader. You know what I'm saying? You guys have seen it.
Oh, it's
All
amazing.
right. LG, thanks, man. I really
so much,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you guys.
We got to get him on again.
Check out his
Got to.
Facebook page, LG's Feel Good.
Appreciate you guys.
You can learn all about the CBD that has been helping him deal with the
LG's
pain.
Feel Good.
LGsFeelGood.com.
Good.com.
Done.
Go visit. Thanks, LG. Good catching up with you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. That was
Thank you.
phenomenal.
All right, that will wrap it up for hour 3 of Inside the Birds Radio live here at Radio Row in Phoenix. Adam Caplan, Geoff Mosher, Andrew DeCecco. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll have more interviews in hour 4. Stick with us, everybody. If you've missed anything, including that great interview with LeGarrette Blount, if you just caught the tail end,
Man, is it
it'll
good.
all be on the YouTube and podcast platforms. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We'll see you in a few minutes.